This episode of the show is brought to you by HostGator. No matter what your business is, you need a website, and HostGator's easy-to-use drag-and-drop interface makes it easy to set up your website in just a few minutes. Plus, my listeners get hosting for as low as $3.95 per month, plus you get an additional 20% off just by going to juniormoneymakers.com/hosting. Welcome back to the Junior Moneymakers Podcast. This is the show that's all about helping you teach your kids how to become young entrepreneurs. Well, today is a huge day. It's the start of a series that is going to answer my two most commonly asked questions. First, how do I know what business to start? And second, what do I need to do to get going? Over the next few weeks, I'm going to walk you step by step through your kid hustle. I want you to take advantage of this series, so here's what you're going to need to do to be successful. First, both you and your parents need to get yourselves a notebook, a good pen or pencil, and set aside some quiet time each week to take notes. If you follow along with the course, you should be off and running in no time. So, let's get started. All right, I want to kick this off with a story. Jimmy had been doing extra chores around the house for almost 6 months, and he still wasn't much closer to reaching his goals than he was when he started. See, Jimmy wanted to attend this giant toy convention in Seattle in the summer, and his parents had actually agreed to let him go, but only if he was able to find a way to pay for it himself. They had given him a few odd jobs to do around the house, but he had only raised about a tenth of the cost of his first night's hotel stay. So, if he had any hope of going to Seattle at all, he was going to have to kick it up a notch. After thinking for a few days, Jimmy decided to take the little money he had and invest it into his own lemonade stand. He looked online and got himself a great stand design, along with an award-winning lemonade recipe. After a few days building his new stand, along with a great banner to hang over it, Jimmy was finally ready to get started. Jimmy's father looked on with more than a little concern as he prepared to head outside. "Are you sure you want to do this, Jimmy?" his father asked. "Absolutely, Dad. I'm ready." And without another word, Jimmy zipped up his parka and headed out to sit between the two big snowbanks where he had set up his stand. It was likely the first ever during an Alaskan winter. Needless to say, Jimmy didn't make much money that first day, or the next for that matter. The lesson here is that before we launch our first business, it's incredibly important to understand that not only are not all business ideas good ideas, but often a great idea can fall flat if executed at the wrong place or the wrong time. Many overnight successes, in fact, are simply the result of a lot of hard work coupled with an ability to spot the right opportunity. If we want our small business to be a success, and let me give you a little hint, you do, the first thing we need to do is figure out if our idea is actually a good one. And we need to start by answering two very simple questions. First, what problem am I trying to solve? And two, who am I trying to serve? You see, in Jimmy's case, he had a great idea. He had an award-winning lemonade recipe, he had a fabulous lemonade stand design, but ultimately his plans fell short. When we start a business focused on what we want or need rather than the problem we're trying to solve, we're doomed to fail. Don't wait until you're sitting out in the cold getting frostbite. Think about who you want to serve and start thinking about the problem you're going to solve right in the beginning. All right, before you go any farther, I want you to double down and spend time developing your idea of who you're going to serve. This idea is something called defining your avatar. Now, this is just a fancy way of creating a pretend client, but not just any client, your ideal client. So, here is your first assignment. Take 20 to 30 minutes to create a simple one-page document of who your ideal customer is going to be. What is their name? What do they do? How many kids do they have? How old are they? What frustrates them? What motivates them? Be very specific, but don't be wordy. We want to know who our ideal client is so that we can focus all of our energy on them. See, in Jimmy's case, he might have done better to decide that his ideal client was Bill. Bill's a 40-year-old man. He's a branch manager at his local bank. Bill has 3 kids and all of them are in middle or high school. Bill has to be at work early almost every day, and he's always running late, especially when it snows, which in Alaska is pretty much all the time. On snowy days, Bill often has to choose between making his morning coffee or shoveling the snow from his car and driveway. If only Bill had someone to deliver him a drink in the morning after he shoveled, he wouldn't have to make that choice any longer. Boom! If Jimmy had gone through these steps, he may have been able to identify that his ideal customer may not have wanted lemonade at all. Maybe they wanted coffee or even hot chocolate. Better yet, what they may have been willing to pay for most was a neighborhood kid to wake up early and shovel their driveway for them so they wouldn't have to. You see how this works? Once you have an idea of who your ideal client is, you can start developing products and services geared directly towards them. Serve your ideal client well and you'll become their favorite, which is and always will be our biggest goal. Once you have your avatar created and a problem you want to solve, it's time to do a little market research. A great idea doesn't mean it's going to be an instant success. Recently, I bought my wife a soda machine. It uses these little cartridges and it makes the water from the tap really fizzy. Now, along with the fizzy water, I bought her these little flavor drops that make the bubbly water taste really delicious. Now, imagine if I was going to take this amazing, delicious, fizzy flavored water and put it in a can to sell. Just imagine how people would line up around the block to buy it. The problem here is that virtually every store in the world is already stocked with well-recognized brands in what is one of the most competitive industries on the planet. If you're going to have a competitive product or service, we need to do some research and try to hit a need that is currently unserved, or at the very least do something to differentiate ourselves from the noise of the competition. We can start by asking ourselves some very simple questions. First, why would anyone want to pay for this product or service? Next, is there competition in my area for this product or service? Next, who are my biggest competitors? Next, what are the key differences in my product or service that gives me a competitive edge? The more prepared and the more positive the answers are to these questions, the more likely your business is going to be a success. A key takeaway here is that you need to take some time and research. Don't jump in and assume that there's no competition or that there's a market for your product. The free market is incredible. It accomplishes what no human being ever could on their own, but it's also unforgiving and absolutely uncompassionate. If you are lazy or wrong, it has no problem showing you in very specific terms. So, the last point here is that you don't have to go into this blind. You can always test your idea first. Testing your idea is a great way to validate your product or service. If you're already being asked to mow lawns or if the lawns in your neighborhood are overgrown, that's a key indicator that a market might exist. If you have an invention or product or baked good, you may be able to set up at a flea market or a rummage sale and find out if people actually want to buy what you're selling. If you make your lemonade, your cookies or pies and sell out at the flea market, you might be onto something. If you post a flyer in your neighborhood for lawn care and your phone rings off the hook with bookings, that is a really good sign. Put yourself out there and test your idea, otherwise you just might crash. Don't simply rely on the kind words of friends and family. Oftentimes, they like you way too much to be brutally honest. Strangers are often not nearly as kind. Alright, well I guess that's going to wrap up part 1 of the series. So let's go over a quick recap before we close out. First, we need to figure out what problem we're going to solve and who our avatar or the person we're going to help is going to be. Next, we need to ask ourselves some simple questions. Why would anyone pay for our product or service? Is there competition in my area for this product or service? Who are my big competitors? And what are the key differences that make my product have a competitive edge? Finally, we talked about testing your idea by advertising your product or service using flyers, social media ads, or setting up test sites at flea markets and rummage sales. On the next episode, we'll start talking about what to do once you're settled on your idea and ready to start setting up your business. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to go to juniormoneymakers.com and put your name and email address to sign up for my email list to get more great episodes just like this. Tips and tricks also go out once a week, and I reserve those just for email subscribers. If you're new to the podcast, it's time to start dreaming big and getting ready to change the world. What do you call a laughing motorcycle? A Yamaha ha 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 ha. Oh, I wasn't sure really how many ha-has to do on that one, so yeah. All right, have a great week, or see you Friday, whatever. Goodbye.